Hey guys, welcome back. In the last lecture, we briefly discussed about the request specs and just checked the basic syntax of it. Now, in this lecture, we will move one more step forward while implementing the request specs. And additionally, in this lecture, we will also handle that what you need to do if you have device user resource and the normal user resource. For example, if you can see in my routes file that I have two different routes for user. One routes dedicate for the device routes like sign up, sign in, registration path and all that, and one is for user resource that we are doing the crud here for users. Okay, so we will do this in this lecture. Okay, so let's start. First, open the request spec file that we created into the last lecture, and in this request spec file you can see that here we created a describe block for listing all the users, and this is working fine. Okay, now what we need to do here, we need to define another describe block for testing the user create feature. Okay, and as we know that to create a user, first we need to open the new user form, and then only we can create a user from the browser. So we will write a spec that will first open the user form, and then it will send the request to the create action by params. Okay, so what we need to do here, first define a describe block. So describe, and here we can do like create user. Okay, and then after create user, just end this describe block, and in this describe block we need to define our spec or example. Okay, so what we can do here, simply use the it block, and it should render the new user form, and after submit save the user. Okay, and this is generally what happens. First we will open the form for creating user, and then we will submit that form to create the user. Okay, so it will take the data params to the users controller. Okay, so what we need to do here, first define our it block statement. So it should render the new user form, and then save the data into database. Okay, and then just end this it block implement, sorry, end this it block, and now we will implement our action into this. Okay, so to open the new user form, what we need to do, first get new user path. Okay, so get, and here you can see that we already know that request specs are different from the controller specs. So now we need to provide the path names here rather than controller action. So what we can do here, get and then new user path, new user path. Okay, and just provide the format here, because we do not have new.html.erb into our application right now, and you can see this into the app views as well. So when you go to the app views users directly, you can see that we only have new.html, sorry, new.turbostream.erb rather than new.html.erb. So we need to mention the format here. Okay, because we will send the request as the turbostream format. Okay, so format, and then define turbo stream. Okay, and then what we need to do, we need to expect response to render template. Then that is what the template we gonna render, that this one, new dot turbo stream dot erb. So first do expect response to, and then render template, and here user new. Okay, now just save this, and let's test this whether this is executing or not. I mean, first test that our new form is being rendered or not. Okay, so just switch to the terminal, and we need to invoke our spec. So r spec, and then spec request, and then go to the line number 19. Okay, so now when you run this spec, let's see what the output here. Okay, you can see that our spec will get failed. It is expecting user new but rendering with users underscore form. Okay, so there is one error, that what we need to do here. Here you can see that what I provided user slash new, but instead of user you need to provide users. Okay, because our view directory name is users. Okay, so just correct this typo mistake, that is render template users slash new. Okay, and now switch to the terminal again and run this spec at the line number 19, and now your spec will get passed. Okay, so that means our request spec is rendering our new template with turbo stream format. Okay, now what we need to do, so our request template has been sorry, our new template has been rendered into the request spec. Now we need to send request on the post action or the create action. Okay, so what will be the http verb here? That is post and then users path. Okay, and now you need to send your params here. So we will use the params just we used at the our controller spec. So first go to the specs directory and controller specs, and we will just copy that uses param method. Okay, and then we will use that. So just switch to the bottom. Okay, and now just copy this method. Okay, and then make it name with user, sorry, and then paste it. And now let's correct the indentation. Okay. Okay, so this is our request params that is going to the create action of the users controller. Okay, now what we need to do, we again need to set the format here because we are sending the request into the turbo stream format. So format, and then it should be turbo stream. Okay, save this. Now we need to expect something here, like what response we gonna get once the request sent to the create action or request is forwarded to the create action of the users controller. Okay, so we can do like, let's say, after this post block, expect, and then here response dot media type, response dot media type dot to, and then it should be eq, and we can write here like, let's say, text, and then vnd turbostream.html, because we are sending our request into the turbostream format. Okay, so vnd dot turbostream.html. Okay, and send do the same thing for this response.content type. So we will remove this media type, and now what we need to do here, html, and then cat set utf add. Okay, just like we did in our users control spec, and you can see here like what we did here. Okay, so you can see here, so you can just copy these lines as well. So just let's copy this and paste it here. Select it, paste it here. Okay, and now what we need to do here, what we need to check again, that you can see that we are creating a user to get sign in, and then we are trying to create a user using this describe block. So our user count should be 2. Why? Because one user we created to get sign in into the system, and then we are creating a new user to test our spec. Okay, so now what should be the user count here? So expect, and then we can simply use user dot count, and then 2 eq, let's say, equal to 2. Okay, and then once this request is arrived, what template we are rendering? Okay, so we are rendering the user partial. You can see this template we are rendering into the browser once user get created, and you can verify this into the controller action as well. So when you go to the users controller create action, you can see that once the request is coming to the create action and user is saved successfully, here you can see that what partial we are entering, users and then user. But in the spec we need to mention the exact partial name, that is start with the underscore. Okay, so expect, and then response dot to render template, and then users slash underscore user. Okay, now let's test this. Okay, and here you can see that in the users controller create action I already added a debugger. Okay, so let's see whether our action is coming to the create action of the users controller or not. Okay, so after saving the spec file of yours, switch to the terminal and send this execute this spec again from the line number 19. Okay, and now our spec should get fail. Here you can see that we expected vnd turbostream dot format, but we are getting text, then hyphen, sorry, text slash html. That means our request is not coming to the create action of the users controller. Okay, here you can simply see that if I added the debugger into the user's controller create action, but this debugger is not halting the execution of the spec. That means the request is not coming to create action of this user's controller. Instead, this request is going to the device user's controller for registering a new user. Okay. So in that case, what we need to do, we need to change the way of routing that we are using. Here you can see that we have device users at the top. Okay, and then what we are doing here, resources users do. So we need to do some scoping here for the resources, and then our resource will go to the users controller create action. Okay, and let's try this by adding a debugger into the spec itself. So add the debugger here. Okay, save this and now execute this spec again from the line number 19, and now debugger will halt the execution of the spec, and you can see that response. Okay, you are being redirected to example.com. That means we are redirecting on device user create form. Okay, and the transaction is rollback. Okay, so now what we need to do here, we just need to set our routes with some scoping here. Okay, so first exit from the debugger, and now add some scope here. So scope. Okay, and then you can provide it, say let's say main, and then end it. Now, when you execute your spec, you will see that your request is coming to the user's controller create action. Okay, so there is some error. Okay, so end of input do, sorry, here we need to add do. Okay, so scope main, and then into the main scope we are placing our applications route. Okay, so now save this and execute your spec again, and this time you will see that your request will go to the create action of the user controller. Okay, now our request is pointing to the create action of the user resource controller, not to the device user create controller. Okay, so here you can see, sorry, first remove this, and then exit from the debugger. You can see now our spec will get passed. That means one example, zero failures. Okay, so this is how you can handle if you have two same resource names. One is dedicated to the device and one is dedicated to the normal resource into your application. But now one problem that you will face, that if you go to the browser, in here you can see, if I visit the users index page now, I will see an application error that no route matches users get. So why? Because I just scoped these routes inside the name main. So what I need to do now, main and then users, then I can do this. Okay, but this scope will prefix your routes only for the browser or only for the URLs. Okay, but your Rails helper paths or your Rails routing will be like new user path, new edit user path, or user show path, like that. Okay, so this scoping will change your routes only for the browser, not for the controller path. Sorry, Rails route path name. Okay, but if you make it like namespace, then your path will get changed. Okay, so what we learned in this lecture, that how we can write spec for creating, sorry, request spec for testing two application. And in this request spec, you can see that what we are doing, we are testing the new user, sorry, new user form as well, because first our request is opening the new user form for creating a user, and then we are sending data to this form, and we are testing the create action as well. So in this lecture, you saw a different and better example of writing test, and we tested the complete user create operation in one example. Like we open the new form first, I mean we sent the request to the new form first, and then we tested the new user create action. Okay, and this is the advantage of request spec. You don't have to write different examples for testing an action or testing an entire feature. Okay, now let's remove all the debugger and execute all the request specs. Okay, so just remove this debugger from here and remove the debugger from the users controllers create action as well. Okay, and now let's switch to the terminal again and run all the specs. So you will see now that two example, zero failure, or both of the spec will get passed. Okay, I mean for listing the user and for creating the user. Okay, so again, see in this user request spec that what we are doing, we just define describe with the create user, and then it should render the new user form. So first we are testing the new user form, okay, and then we are testing the create user feature. Okay, and this way you can do the same thing for edit and update operation as well. Okay, and you will do that in the next lecture. Meanwhile, if you want, you can try this at your end as well. And the other thing that we learned, that how to handle if we have two resources with same name. One is dedicated to the device resource and one is dedicated as the normal resource in our application. Okay, and that's all from this lecture. I hope you like this. Try this at your end, and we will meet into the another lecture. Till then, tata, goodbye, take care, and stay safe.